Hello. I'm not sure when I'm going to post this, and I feel the need to apologize, even though I know that I don't need to, but I feel the urge to apologize for being so sweaty and like this not being the most aesthetically pleasing video, but the point of this video is not the visuals, so yeah. Basically, what we're going to be talking about is letting go. A relatively abstract concept, but a very important one for any human. Also, sorry if the wind becomes a distraction at any point. So, I did take notes because sometimes I like to be organized. So, also, there's going to be a written version of this. Once again, I'm not sure when this is going to get posted. Most likely it should be in July, but if not, oh well. Letting go can be a very hard thing to do, and I'm going to preface this video, I'm going to say that it does not matter how anybody else sees your situation. What it really boils down to is whether or not you, as the individual making the decision, feels like it is a correct decision. Like, if you genuinely, how do I say this? Like, if you have someone in your life, or if you have multiple people in your life, and they give you problems, they give you stress, blah, 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 but there's, like, redeeming qualities. Maybe they're super kind, super caring, super loving, super generous, whatever. And so it seems justifiable. That's okay. Like, there's no right or wrong. Like, humanly, as a human brain, yeah, there's right and wrong. But there's no real right or wrong when it comes to, like, manifesting and, like, creating your reality. Ideally, you don't want to, like, actively hurt people because it'll come back to you. And generally, it's just not cool to, like, do that. But, like, there's no right or wrong. So I'm going to also say that. I won't say that I'm an expert at letting go, at least when it comes to people. Like, when it comes to people, I do have a hard time, like, fully letting go, fully committing to letting go. Like, I'll mentally and spiritually let go, but then when it comes to the physicality, I'm like, okay, but we're still here. I don't know how to, like, do that. And it depends. Sometimes it's been relatively easy, but most of the time, it's not the easiest thing to do, but it can be very necessary. Also, I don't know what that was, but I am on a wall. Just felt a thump. That was weird. But letting go can be very necessary. And as painful as it can be, it is worth it. And once again, it's totally up to you as the person making the decision whether or not it's even a necessary action. So, you know, you could go to someone, you could tell them all the details of your situation, but, like, it's up to you. Like, you're the one who has to make the decision. So, just keep that in mind. One thing that I find very useful, I didn't write this down, but one thing that I find very useful is, actually, did I write this down? I did write about praying, but basically praying or, like, speaking to the universe, speaking to the cosmos, to the gods, or, like, whatever it is that you believe in terms of, like, a higher power. Asking for things to be removed if it is not beneficial to you. I think this is a really great practice, and it can be very, like, scary. It can be very, like, jarring when it does happen, but sometimes we need a little intervention, you know? And one thing I'll say is that for some people, the reason why they have a hard time letting go is because they feel as though their presence is needed, as though, well, basically, I was going to, like, say it in different ways, but, like, it feels good to be needed. It feels good to feel as though you are being helpful to someone. And sometimes, on a, like, elevated perspective, that is what we are doing when it comes to, like, toxic relationships or, like, not super desirable relationships. For example, let's say you have a house and you meet this person who does not have a house, and they have a lot of things that they, like, need to get done and stuff, and you have the ability to help them. But they also happen to not be super appreciative they don't thank you for anything, and they kind of take you for granted. Now, there's obviously different ways to deal with something like this, but like, if you genuinely just want to help and you don't really care to be thanked, then it's up to you whether or not you keep this person in your life. But like, what it boils down to is self-preservation. Like, it is virtually impossible to help other people if you are neglecting yourself, if you're not properly being taken care of. And unfortunately, we do live in a world where a lot of people put themselves first, which isn't a bad thing, but, and I guess there's nuance, there's duality, because, you know, we create our own realities, and if you want to live in a world where everybody like looks out for each other, you could definitely curate that for yourself. But like, for the most part, everyone kind of just like looks out for themselves. And so that being said, you have to take time to pour into yourself. You have to make the effort to pour into yourself, especially if you're a giving person and you like to help others. Because if you're constantly giving to other people and you're not giving back to yourself, you're going to find yourself depleted. You're going to find yourself feeling resentful, and you don't want that, obviously, right? And like, we could talk about how some people get a sense of satisfaction from helping others. That's cool, that's dandy, but that's really not enough. Like, you have to genuinely like pour into yourself. You have to like, I mean, you don't have to do anything, but it helps a lot. I'm being called to talk about mirror work. I think I did talk about this in the notes. These notes were not for the video originally. These notes are for the written portion of this. And once again, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I'm not sure when this is going to get posted. But this video and the written portion should be like intertwined. So there's that. I took a lot of notes. I took 5 pages of notes. Granted, it is a relatively small notebook, but yeah, I talked about mirror work, and that can be a very necessary practice in general, but also in regards to letting go. Like, because I feel like a lot of the times we have a hard time letting go because we don't want to be lonely. We don't want to feel like we're abandoning people. We don't want to feel like, you know, we're leaving people out in the cold or whatever. And so like, it helps to remind ourselves, hey, you're not a bad person for walking away. You're not a bad person for X, Y, and Z. Like, sure, maybe it wasn't the most outwardly loving thing, but like, just like it is necessary to be loving towards others, it is necessary to be loving towards yourself. You can disagree with that, sure, but for the case of this video, you definitely need to pour into yourself. There is one book that I know of about letting go. I don't remember who wrote it. I actually did not write it. I did not read it. It is on my list. If you go to the link tree, wherever you can find my link tree, I have a document with a really long list of links and books that I've either read or scanned that I find are very helpful. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out. I'll try to link that below, but for some reason the link tree doesn't usually work. Also, once again, I'm sorry to myself because I do not like sweating. I don't like it. So, I'm sorry for the future me who has to like watch this back and whatnot. But yeah, one analogy that I've used recently is that of like someone who's climbing a mountain and like collecting rocks. In the case of where you're like holding the rocks in your hand because for some reason you don't have a bag to hold. I mean, even if you have a bag, like the weight adds up. But like if you're holding it in your hand, at some point you have to let it go because you're not going to be able to continue climbing or collecting rocks if you continue holding things in your hand. Like at some point you have to let it go, let it flow. And on an energetic level, I like the idea of like letting it flow. Like, you're not abandoning anything. You're not like leaving it to die. Like, you're just letting it go. You're letting it be. You're letting it do its own thing. Because, sure, we could argue the philosophy that we are all connected. We are all intrinsically connected on some level. But once again, we are all in this reality, in this illusion, we are separated. We are individuals. And so recently I've been seeing people say, like, just let them, which can be very scary for people who desire control, for people who want to feel in control of their own lives, because even though it's not your life, they are a part of your life. And sometimes when you let go of control, when you let go of the need to maneuver things, it can feel a little chaotic. But like I said in the beginning of this, I think for all humans, the concept of letting go is a very important lesson, because otherwise you get weighed down, you get bogged down. Like, no judgment, like this isn't supposed to be shade towards the people who do this, but for the people who keep childhood friends and friends in general, and like never consider parting ways, like, energetically, that can take a toll on you. Sure, you might be able to maintain those friendships, and that's awesome, that's beautiful, but considering that we are meant to grow and evolve, most of us, when you hold on to relationships and connections that are like overdue, it can cause for issues, it can cause for stagnation, it can cause for tension. You know, I actually said this to someone yesterday, and I could tell they did not care to hear it. But I was like, you know, if you're going to tell me unnecessary information that I didn't ask for, I'm going to respond with something that I find is useful. So I was like, because they were telling me about their boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or whatever, and how they don't see eye to eye. And I was like, yeah, you probably don't want to hear this, but a lot of us tend to like hold on to relationships, and that just causes issues. And it's like, I'm not telling you, like, I'm not trying to get into your business, but whatever, you did share this information with me, but like, you know, sometimes you just gotta let go. And he didn't really respond to that, which is whatever. I said I did what I did, which I guess could be considered a form of letting go, because a lot of us, we crave validation, we crave the feeling of being seen and feeling heard, which is normal. But letting go of the need for it, emphasis on the word need, can be so life-changing. Like, I wouldn't say I'm like perfectly healed, but I have gotten to a place where I can say something in a room of people and not be acknowledged, and then not personalize it, which getting there was a journey, but it's a nice thing to be able to do or to experience, like not being so tied to other people validating you or like seeing you as you would like them to see you. Because unrelated, a lot of people do this thing where they kind of like, sometimes it's manipulation, sometimes it's like blatant manipulation, and other times people just don't know what to say, so they just don't say anything. I don't like that personally. I'm like, for the sake of like flowing the conversation, I feel like at least a sound should be made, so it's like, I know that you heard me, but not everyone's like me. It's whatever. But yeah, some people do that. Like, you might say something controversial or like out there, and everyone's just like crickets. And that can be very detrimental. I've read somewhere a long time ago, and it stuck with me, that if you don't get a response within 3 seconds, it can definitely be harmful to one's self-esteem or ego. And I've kept that with me. And like, once again, some people do this on purpose. They're like, I'm not going to respond to you. I'm going to make you feel weird for my own benefit. And like, it's hard for me to like truly jump into the mind of someone who does this, but like, it is something that I have to think about occasionally. Like, some people are purposely manipulative, some people are purposely malicious, and I say some, I would hope that it's not a majority of people, but a lot of people, you know, it's a cycle. Like, you experience malicious behavior, and as a result you become hardened, and then you perpetuate that malicious behavior because it was done to me, so why not? It only makes sense. But like it says in the Bible, be of the world, not of it. Or what is it? I'm misquoting. But like, be in the world, but don't be of it. Don't like be a product of the environment, you know? Like, stick to your core values, basically, is how we're translating that. I did take a lot of notes, and I haven't been very faithful to these notes. Also, I hope you're having a nice day. Whenever I end up posting this, I hope that it's a nice vibe for you. I hope that you're in a good place. If not, I hope you recognize that you can get out of that place and get to happier vibes. Whatever you're going through, everything is temporary. No amount of suffering lasts forever. Forever is a very long time. One thing I wrote is that to fully let go, we do have to be ready for the undesired consequences. I mean, you don't have to be ready, but like, for the sake of like being a master at letting go, you have to recognize that there are going to be consequences, and it just is what it is. Like, when you let go of a connection that you've had for a long time and you mean a lot to this other person, most likely you're going to get backlash. Most likely you're going to get resistance. And this is usually the thing that like pulls people back in. I know for me, at least, when I've like mentally let go of something, excuse me, and then I try to, excuse me, and then I actually try to let it go physically, there's often some sort of guilt or some sort of persuasion that happens where I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need to let go. Maybe I don't need to walk away. And like, that's my crutch. That's my thing. But once again, to be a master at letting go, as if I can tell you about that, you do have to be okay with that. You do have to be okay with people perceiving you as negative. Once again, we're letting go of the need to be validated. We were letting go of the need to be fully liked, because not everyone's going to like you. Oh my god, my throat is so dry right now. God bless. I know for the notes, I wrote down for the title, Letting Go with Grace. And I don't feel like I'm a master at letting go. I don't feel like I'm graceful when it comes to letting go. Maybe other people would say differently. I don't fucking know. But I don't feel that way. Which I'm being called to like mention the idea of letting go of certain perceptions. Like, sometimes what we need to let go of when it comes to connections is our perception, the way that we're viewing the situation. Like in the case of like you helping someone, you could easily say, like, this person does no good for me, they're just draining, etc., etc. But if you can find it in your heart of hearts to want to help this person and recognize that you're not going to get anything back and you're able to pour into yourself, that's fine. That's the perspective shift. You know, not looking at it as like a negative thing, just looking at it as a selfless act. But that's just an idea, that's just a thought. There's a lot of different philosophies on the idea of evil and like what is bad. And I say that because, you know, the reason why you would walk away from someone is because they're not good for you. You know, they don't treat you well. And like, a part of me believes that nobody is truly evil. What is perceived as evil is really just ignorance and misguided like beliefs. But there's another part of me that recognizes that some people genuinely do get off on the idea of like causing pain for others, which, once again, can't jump into that mindset fully, but some people do get off on the pain of others. And I think it's something that we grow out of. I think it's something that we evolve out of as humans, but like, duality. Anyways, when you find that someone is not treating you well, when you find that someone is like disrespecting you and like crossing your boundaries constantly, it's up to you whether or not you feel the need to walk away. And like, I feel like a necessary tool to push you towards the direction of walking away is the fact that, or at least the opinion, I guess, because it's an opinion, the idea that you and anybody watching this video are inherently worthy of good things. You're inherently worthy of having a life that is pleasurable. And like, I feel like we live in a society where that's not really the norm, especially in America. Like, we work to live, and that alone is like a whole thing. But it's like, you don't really need to do that. And like, at the core of all of us, we should be like enjoying this existence. Like, sure, there are things we should be learning, there are lessons, whatever. But if you genuinely cannot find enjoyment in something, you might want to walk away. This might be a little bit too transparent, I don't know, but I love making music. But there are parts of it that really frustrate me. But like, if I didn't genuinely love making music, it's not something I would even think about doing. You know what I mean? Also, shout out to my music. I may or may not put it in the description. And like, that goes for anything. It's like, there's always going to be aspects of things that we don't like. But it's about finding that sweet spot. It's about finding what works for you. And throwing away the rest. And to go back to the idea of friendships and letting go of friendships, I have never been the type of person to like hold on to people. I've tried. It usually doesn't work out for whatever reason. But like all of my childhood friends, all of the people that were from my childhood, I don't know those people anymore. I don't talk to those people, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes I have regrets. I'm like, maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe I should have maintained this relationship. But it is what it is. I can't go back. So it is what it is. And I appreciate who I am in this moment, you know? And once again, back to the self-reflection / mirror work thing. Like, I do believe a lot, oh my God. A big reason why people hold on to relationships that are not like beneficial to them is because they're afraid of being alone. They're afraid of being disliked. They're afraid of what their life would look like without whatever connection that is being asked to like dissipate. And I guess also in this moment I'm being reminded of how disconnected a lot of us are from our intuitions. And so when a relationship is supposed to end, we get that signal. It's a thing that you perceive. Like, you know, the signs and symbols and synchronicities, we see that. But how developed our intuition is, how close we are to our intuition, will determine whether or not we listen to our intuition, you know? It's not something that's funny. It's not something to glorify. But I will admit that sometimes I actively turn my cheek away from my intuition. It's not something I'm proud of, and it's not something to glorify. But I always acknowledge my intuition, at least. Like, if I get a nudge, I'm like, oh, I feel that. I see that. Thank you. But maybe not. Maybe not going to do that, you know? And I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think that's a good idea. But when it comes to letting go, like, we always know when it's time. We always know. But we like delude ourselves into believing that maybe we don't need to, maybe we could hold on longer, whatever, maybe we could fix it. And like, sure, we create our own realities. Like, I want to emphasize for the third time that you don't have to let go of anything. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to. No matter what the signs are saying, no matter what the universe is telling you, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And so if you find that your soul is being like, yeah, maybe walk away from this, maybe this isn't a good idea, you have the free will to decline that request. Obviously, you will deal with the consequences and you have to like roll with the punches, but we have free will. And so that's the thing. And I think another way to look at the idea of letting go is, I used to do this visualization where I would imagine like me and another person like in space, right? And when I needed distance, when I needed space, when I needed to remove myself, I would visualize us like separating within like space, you know? And like ideally there would also be a level of protection and like love and light that is also sent. And I feel like part of like letting go gracefully is doing it with love, doing it with care, doing it with compassion, which can be difficult for some people. Especially if someone is treating you downright like disrespectfully and terrible. Like it can be hard to be like, okay, I'm gonna walk away and I still have love for you, but like get the fuck away from me. It can be hard to do that because like a lot of the times we're like, I hate you, I hate what you've done to me, I hate who you made me, I want nothing to do with you. But like, and we could disagree on this, but I do feel like that creates for bad energy, for bad karma. Because ideally we want to like care for everybody, we want to love everybody, you know, Christ consciousness loves everyone, we all love each other and we have care for each other. That doesn't mean you have to like give your time and energy to everyone, but like at the least training our minds to think positively about the people around us, the people who have hurt us, can be like a monumentally life-changing thing. Like I think it was after I read the book The Game of Life and How to Play It, written by Scoville Florence Shinn, back in like 1930 something, I think. After I read that book, it really changed my perspective. It really opened my heart to some degree, and it really pushed me to be more careful with my thoughts. Because within the book, it talks about the way that we think about others and how that influences reality. And I remember there was this one story where this woman was like complaining about her husband or complaining about her lover, whoever the dude was, and being like, he's such a terrible lover, blah, 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 I hate him, blah, blah, blah. And the author had suggested that they switch their thinking and wish them love, wish them the best, whether or not they are a thing. Excuse me. And once they did this, they found so much positive change. This person didn't continue being like the relationship for them. They actually found another man who was more like loving and compatible. But like it was the way that she switched her thoughts that really shifted things, you know? And like this can be a very hard concept for some of us to grasp. I understand that. But like everything is energy. Your thoughts are energy, your words are energy, your feelings are energy. And so, that being said, everything that is put out into the atmosphere, everything that is thought, somehow manifests in some way, even if it's not on a grand scale, because I don't want to get anybody like paranoid, because it is very easy to get into paranoid thinking when you realize that everything you think holds some weight. So I don't want you to like worry and be like, oh my God, are my OCD thoughts going to manifest? Or no. My personal trick for that is to tell yourself that you are safe from your harmful thoughts. You are safe from your OCD thoughts. Because occasionally, I haven't dealt with this recently, but like I have had moments where I started spiraling and I started thinking about a bunch of negative thoughts. And realizing, knowing fully well that we create our own realities and that it's possible to shift your reality with your thoughts, I got scared and I was like, oh my God, am I going to manifest this? Because like I would have some really intrusive thoughts. I would have thoughts about me like getting shot randomly or like tripping and falling at an inopportune time or whatever. And then I'd have to like stop myself and be like, okay, you're safe. You're okay. It's just a thought. And so that really helps. I think that's really helpful. The mind is a crazy thing. And I do believe in the power of love. Like, as much of a cynic, as much as I can be apathetic, I do believe in love. And if you're going to let go of something, do it with love. Like, find appreciation in that thing before letting it go. Whether it's a toxic relationship, whether it's a terrible job, whether it's your family, like whatever it is, find appreciation in that. Like, find the lesson, find the silver lining, and then let it go with love. Like, even if you need to say it out loud, be like, I let this go with love. I let this situation go with love. I wish them the best. Because that's also a key. Like, because what you put out into the atmosphere comes back. And if you're departing from someone and you're like, I fucking hate you, I hope you fall down a well, like, that energy comes back to you in some way or form. Like, you might think, like, oh, it's just my thoughts, that's stupid. But, like, once again, everything is energy. And so I try to be very careful about how I think about people and how I, like, hold people in my mind. Like, right now, on the top of my head, I'm thinking of a few people that have really gotten under my skin, have really rubbed me the wrong way, have really made me feel uncomfortable in a way where I'm like, this isn't me, this is you. Like, obviously we could argue like incompatibility, but like I could objectively say you are a bad person, you know? But I've had to like force myself to be like, I wish you love, I wish you healing, I wish you to have a better mindset, but I'm not going to like wish ill upon you. Like, that's silly. Because once again, what we put out into the universe comes back to us. And like, maybe we could argue that it's selfishness to think about it in this way, because it's like, if the only reason why you're being nice to people is though that people are nice to you, it's giving narcissism. But we all have a degree of narcissism, so who cares? Whatever. Because you can only see the world through your eyeballs. So, you know. This has turned into a long video. I was not expecting to be recording for half an hour, but thank you for watching. If you're still watching, I hope this has been helpful to you, sincerely. Also, I would definitely recommend looking up, if I don't put it in the description, I'm sorry, but I would definitely recommend, I'm going to write it down. I would definitely recommend checking out the Game of Life and how to play it. I don't remember the exact year that it was published, but it's an older book. And it is very spiritually centered. There's a lot of spiritual, like, woo-woo stuff. And I think it is very useful for anyone on their spiritual journey. So if you want to check that out, I would definitely urge you to do that. Personally, once again, the audiobook version, most of the books that I like have in my document are books that I've like listened to the audiobook, because who has the attention span to sit down and read a book, you know? Which is terrible to say, but you know. Anyways, yes, letting go can be difficult, letting go can be painful, but it can also be a very necessary thing to do for anybody and everybody. And so if there's something or someone that you're wanting to let go of in your life, first of all, just do a pros and cons, really weigh out the situation, really like look at it from a different perspective before fully committing. But if you do decide to do that, make sure you do it with love. Make sure you do it with the understanding that what you give out is what it will come back to you. And so choose love, choose compassion, choose understanding. And once again, I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been useful. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Peace, love, and hair grease.